Hello everyone, welcome back to another video for the Ankara African Wax Print series. Today's video will feature a sewing block of this Simplicity 4838 jumper dress. I had the opportunity to go through the instructions and read all of the instructions. I also did a mock-up for the bodice of the garment. Now during this video you will see me sewing the lining for this, and like I said, I already did the mock-up, so I'm not going to be showing you footage of any of that. It's just going to be footage of my progress of sewing the actual lining and then also the show of the garment and putting those pieces together. So as I mentioned before, I did go through the instructions. The instructions were very easy to read, and I was really surprised because being as though this is a 1960s pattern, a lot of the information back then just wasn't as concise and to the point as it is today. So I was really surprised by the readability of the instructions, and I am just really loving the dress. So for this project, I did use a combination of two different fabrics. The first fabric here that you see is this red and brown dot fabric. The camera does not do a really good job at picking up the different tones here or the shades, but this is a brown fabric, and it is, or the dots are brown anyway, and it is just a 100% cotton fabric. It's not too thick or anything like that. It's just a woven fabric that has no stretch to it at all. So this is what I used for the lining of the dress. And this Ankara piece right here is a 100% cotton as well. And I had 6 yards of it, and it takes about 3 yards to make the jumper dress. So I have quite a bit left over for another project, and I'm really excited about that. So this pattern I bought from an Etsy shop, and it was not very expensive at all. I think I paid somewhere between $5 and $8 for it before shipping. And to my surprise, I found out that it does not come with all of the pieces. So I was able to do the jumper dress because all of the pieces for the jumper dress were there, but I was not able to do a matching shirt. And so I was a little sad about that, because that was the whole purpose of why I purchased this, is because I wanted the entire outfit. So now I have to go out and find a pattern that looks similar to this this blouse here and make a shirt to go with it. So I'm a little bit disappointed by that, but other than that, this is a really great pattern. This pattern does say that it's for a bust of 34, but I found that when I did the mock-up, it had quite a bit of ease, and so I didn't have to do a whole lot of adjustments to the bust. I think the bust ended up being about a 37 or 38, which was perfect for me, and I didn't do any adjustments to the bust, as I said before. But the waist of the garment, I did do some adjustments to the waist. I had to add about 3 inches to the waist because the waist was a 28, and I think that was the unfinished measurement. Let me look on the back here. So a size 16 for the waist. Yes, it's a 28 for the waist. And so I did have to add quite a bit for that. So the finished measurements, I want to say the finished measurements was around I want to say like a 29 or 30. And so I ended up adding about 3 inches to the garment. So it wasn't too bad at all. And then, as I said, because I had to increase the waist of the garment, I also increased both the waist of the bodice as well as the waist of the skirt. So you won't see any of that footage throughout the video, but you will see, footage of me preparing the garment after the mock-up stage. So I really hope that you enjoy this video, and I really hope that you enjoy the finished garment as well. And I will just go ahead and leave you right here so that you can watch the rest of the video. Okay, so I went ahead and I made all the alterations and adjustments that I needed to do to the bodice of the garment, and I transferred everything on this construction paper. So I have my front bodice with all of the darts in place here, and I made sure that I went ahead and marked everything so that I know if I use this later on, I know what size it is. And so here's the back bodice as well, and I have all of everything ready for that. So now all I have to do is go ahead and cut out the lining of the garment, and after I cut out the lining, I am going to go ahead and do another fit to make sure that it is nice and accurate before I actually cut my Ankara fabric. Here's the back lining. Okay, and this is the lining for the fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch that together, the back and front lining, and do one more fitting before I cut out the Ankara fabric. So this is the front of the jumper. All right, so here we are. I went ahead and transferred all the darts on the lining of the fabric, and now I just need to take it to the machine and stitch those down. So this is the back, and this one is the front. I just need to fold those over and pin them down and take them to the machine and stitch it together so that I can form a dart. Now that the back and the front bodice is done, now that I have the darts in place in the back and front bodice, I can go ahead and give those a quick press. And one of the things that I like to do with the top of the dart, like this point up here at the top, instead of doing a back stitch up here at this point, I like to just take the 2 strands of thread, and I usually leave enough thread on here that I can tie, that I can make my knots. And so I usually just open up the 2 strands of thread and I just make 2 knots up at the top instead of back stitching with the machine, because the machine tends to pucker the top of the dart there if you do a back stitch, and you don't want any puckers there because it won't look very well. So that's basically what I do. I just take the 2 strands of thread and I make 2 knots on each dart. So after I do all that, I am going to go ahead and cut off those strands, give this back and front bodice piece a quick press, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew the I think it's the left side of the bodice front and back together. The right side is going to have a zipper there, so that's going to be the closure for this garment. It has a side zip on the side, so I have to leave that open so that I can put the zip there. After I finish with this, I am going to go ahead and work on the skirt. So remember in the earlier part of the video, I said that I needed to make some adjustments to the skirt. So I need to do that real quickly before I cut out the lining of the skirt. So I'm going to finish with this and then go ahead and work on the skirt. I just got the lining of the garment done, and it's not draped on my mannequin in any particular way. I just put it on here just to show that I got something done. So this is not an indication of how it's going to be laying on my body. I still have to cut out the pieces for the actual garment, for the outside of the garment, and after I do some more tests on this particular lining, then I will go ahead and proceed with cutting out the Ankara wax print. I just don't want to do that yet, just in case for some reason this project goes awry, then I would not have cut into my more expensive fabric. Okay, so these are the adjustments that I need to make so far. And really the only thing that I really need to do is shorten the skirt. So I already did that, and it's really annoying because this skirt is super long. Originally it was going down to the floor. Before I cut it, I altered the pattern, and I took off about, I think about 3.5 inches or so, and it's still super long. I did want the dress to come up a little bit below the knee area, so I did want mine to be a little bit on the shorter end anyway. It's featured on the envelope as being like a midi dress. I don't want a midi dress. I want something that is more knee length, so that's something that I'm definitely going to go ahead and fix. I also need to do an adjustment to the skirt as well. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not, but I do have, we have 4 seams on this skirt. So I have the center front, the center back, and the 2 side seams. So, and each one is sewed at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. But for the right side of the skirt, it's sewed at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to about around the hip area, and then I will put a zip in that area. So the zipper will go from the underarm and it will extend down into the hip area. So this is my progress so far. I'll keep updating my progress as I go throughout this whole process of making this second Ankara make. All right, so stay tuned for more. Now that I have the lining and the shell of the garment complete, I can go ahead and attach these two pieces. And then after I do that, I am going to work on the pockets. Before I go any further, guys, I just want to show you how I attach the lining to the shell of the garment. So here's the outside of the garment and here's the lining. And as you can see, I attached it at the neckline. So here's the neckline. I just sewed the two pieces together and then I clipped the edges on the inside so that the neckline can lay nice and flat. I am going to go ahead and create some bias binding. So I'm going to make the bias binding out of this same material here, out of the Ankara print, so it can blend really nice and look really, really cool. And I'm going to go ahead and bind the arm area here. This project is coming along, you know, better than I expected it to come along at this process. I just need to go ahead and finish the skirt. I need to put the pockets on the skirt. So I think I'm going to sit the bodice to the side for now, focus on the skirt and put the pockets on the skirt before I get to the point where I need to attach the skirt to the bodice and then forget all about the pockets. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and get back to work and I will update my progress soon. Okay guys, so let me show you what I'm up to so far. Here are the pockets. So the pockets are quite large. I haven't decided if I want to trim this back some or not, but I don't want to take away from the style either. But I cut 2 pieces for each pocket. So here is the outside of the pocket. So this black fabric is going to be the contrast against the jumper. And for the lining of the pocket, I went with the printed colored fabric from Walmart. So that's the first pocket. I have that one cut out, and I am about to work on the second one. I was able to get the zipper in, and I did everything. I fully lined the dress. I did everything except for the armholes and also the hem. And then also I need to go around the entire dress and whip stitch the lining, the bodice lining, to the skirt of the dress. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I already got my thread and my needle and all that stuff ready. And then after I finish whip stitching the bodice to the skirt, I will go ahead and do the armholes. So let me show you how I made my bias tape for this project. So basically what I did is I took my standard ruler. So this is a standard ruler that I purchased from Walmart. It's 18 inches long and it's 1 inch wide. And so whenever I want to make bias tape and I want to have it a certain width, sometimes I'll use the width of this this ruler here, because it's really easy. So basically what I'll do is I'll lay the ruler down on the bias, and I will create my first line going down the center of the bias. So that's what I did here. And then I will go ahead and create a second line somewhere on the fabric. And usually it is still the width of this ruler. So I'll have 2 lines generally. And so basically what I would do is cut the fabric out on one of those lines. And then after I cut the fabric out and I have a standard 2 inch wide bias, I will fold each side of the bias on that line. So that makes it, for me anyway, it makes it so that I know my bias binding is going to be nice and even, because without having like that center line, most of the time my bias tape come out being not very even. So so that's why I just create a center line there. And this fabric, because it's a wax print fabric, it just, like, I can make a crease in it like this. Take my fingernail, make a crease with my fingernail, and it'll just lay flat. Isn't that nice? I don't even have to iron it initially. So I'll do the second side the same way. Fold it to the line, going all the way down the length of the bias tape. And my armhole area is about a 15. I generally just make it, I make my bias tape around 17 inches long, just to give me some room to work with. And then after I fold both ends and bring it to the center line here, I fold them together so that I can get my double folded bias binding, or bias tape. And then I just take it to the iron and I give it a really good press so that it lays nice and flat, and I can get my creases to settle in. And so after I do that and it's nice and flat and the creases are settled in with the iron, I can open it up and I can lay it against my armhole area, and then I can just stitch it on the line. So that's what I did for my bias binding for this project. So let me show you what it looks like right now and where I'm at in the process. But basically I open up the bias binding just like this and I stitch on that line. And then when I flip it over on the side of the lining, this piece will be in the lining and I can stitch that down. Well, really I'm gonna stitch in this little ditch here, the seam, and then that'll be my armhole finishing. So that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, everyone, here is the finished garment. Still not for certain about the pockets here, but they are done and attached, and hopefully I'll be able to get a lot of wear out of this. So that's the front of the garment. This is the right side of the garment. And here is the back of the garment. And finally, this is the left side of the garment where the zipper is at. I am so excited to wear this dress, and I'm hoping to get a lot of wear out of it. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the channel and for watching the video. Please stay tuned for my next Ankara make. Hopefully I'll be able to get something done before the end of December, but don't hold me to that because December is always a very busy month with the holidays and everything. So hopefully I'll get something done, but I'm not going to say for certain. Thank you so much for your support and for tuning into the channel. And I hope that you guys found this video helpful, and if not helpful, at least entertaining. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, stay creative.